All right, so with this refined paint, I can tell very easily just by turning off my base color layer what still needs to be touched and worked with, right? So I haven't done the tail at all. So you can tell this is with the refined paint, I've got lots and lots going on. And with the base paint, very basic. So we keep working. Just noting the places where my cat's coloring is a little bit different than the reference. Now I'm trying to show you how to kind of model form in a controllable way. But I also have influences that are quite out there, right? So some of these colors I'm using, some of these kind of splotchy approaches I'm using, but everything is with this very kind of short, choppy mark that gives me this refined paint. But once I'm confident that I've portrayed it, then I can start experimenting with augmenting it, right? So in my traditional paint practice, I do a lot of kind of drawing and then painting over it and then sanding it down and then putting bleach on it and like intentionally disrupting what I've done so I can react to mistakes that happen or what's left over or things that I like, you know. So it's part of the process to kind of figure out the quality of mark you like. And that doesn't always mean that everything is defined in the same way, especially once you get away from the focal points that you really wanted to be clear about. And digital gives us a lot of opportunities to play with that because we have access to all layers at all times. So at any time, I could just change the whole arrangement of the face. So if I feel like the eyes looks a little too kittenish, right? What I can do is just select that whole chunk of the face, everything above the nose, and I can duplicate it. And then I can transform it and push the eyes into a different position. Because this is basing it on kind of the proportions of a cat with a slightly bigger head, not quite fully grown. So when I do that, you can see how that kind of changes just that area. And then because it's still just refined paint, then I just need to restate some of the things that were coming from the layers underneath, like the pupils. Like so. See, very different, but easily accomplished with digital paint, which is not so easily accomplished with other types of paint. I can even play with filters on it and maybe like sharpen those edges a little bit because I stretched them. So these are for my own paint strokes. Smart sharpen it just to get kind of the edge of some of those colors, like the reds around the eyes. And because I duplicated it, I could even play with image adjustments. And I can play with the levels. Brighten the midtones a little bit, darken the shadows. Or even play with the hue saturation. So we'll talk more about this as we're finishing it off. But this is messing with my own paint strokes, right? My own pixels. And that feels a little bit more dimensional. And I just need to blend its edges, just like we learned in compositing. Because it's layered on top. So you can have as many layers as you want for your refined painting. I just require you have at least one. One base painting layer, one refined paint layer. But you can clearly do a lot more, if that's helpful. And it continues with this bigger brush over more of the body. Now, is there a way, like these legs are really boring, this leg's really boring. Is there a way I can take texture from a place I like and composite that, internally composite that to kind of speed it up, taking from my own strokes, right? So this is what my refined paint looks like. So what if I steal this chunk right here? It's got a lot going for it. In the white fur. Steal that from my refined paint layer. Turn the stuff on and then take that and move it. Here I can use my compositing knowledge, but this is now with my own paint strokes, right? Transform it, flip it horizontal, put it on top of that leg, right? Then duplicate it. Free transform it. Move it over to this leg. Because all these are pixel strokes that you have painted. So you're free to use them as you like. It's like scooping them up with a palette knife, just placing them somewhere else. Hold down Shift, I can kind of modify it. I can warp it. Because maybe it's just me, but I have trouble working so hard on the surfaces that aren't focal points. But I still want them to all feel considered. I don't want them to look unfinished. I just don't enjoy finishing them off with as much labor. All right, so that helps. It's not perfect, but then I can blend that, erase that out, and then paint over from there. And if I think it all works, I can take all those layers, the eyes, the legs, and merge those all together, and that's a second refined paint layer, right? It's added on top. And now I just keep working with it. With these low opacity brushes. And especially when your reference doesn't tell you what you can do. Like my reference doesn't give me anything for the pause or lots of details. I have my own reference, which can be helpful. So let's see. Let's go to that. Open it up. Zoom in. Oops. There we go. There we have a nice paw, and I can just grab that. Command C it, then paste it in as reference as I'm painting these paws. Then I want to lock it because I don't want to accidentally paint on that layer. All right. Then I can decide how to put the claw in. It's up to you how detailed you want to be and how you want to model the form. Doesn't seem right. Let's see. Let's push it down a little. Now, one of my painting heroes, which really informs kind of the way I do painting sketches like this, is John Singer Sargent. I got to study his works in person at the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, where I was a student. And his paint method, it all looks so beautifully detailed from a distance. But because he was doing so many, especially his watercolors, which I just adore, he was doing so many of these commissions, he just figured out how to make it incredibly efficient by using the fewest possible strokes to give the illusion of such detail, whether it was oil paint or watercolor. And that's actually a technique that's really, really prized in concept painting, just getting ideas down quick. So this is a large, important painting, but when you actually look at it up close, everything is just a soft stroke. They're just incredibly well observed, so that it almost looks photographic from a distance. But how quickly